25. For many years, Hitler refused to marry Eva Braun for fear of how it would affect his image. Yet, he decided to do so when the Germans were facing defeat. Hitler and Braun wed in a civil ceremony, and the following day, their dead bodies were found. Hitler had shot himself, and Braun died from a cyanide capsule. 24. When Geli Raubal, Hitler's half-niece, pursued medicine, she stayed in his apartment in Munich. Later on, he became extremely possessive and domineering of her. He even prohibited her from doing anything without his permission after he heard rumors of her relationship with his driver. After returning from a short meeting in Nuremberg, Hitler found the body of his half-niece, who had apparently shot herself with his gun. 23. Hitler wanted the Vatican to recognize his authority, so in 1933, the Catholic Church and the German Reich signed a covenant that assured the protection of the Church, but only if they remained dedicated solely to religious activities. This agreement, however, was broken, and the Nazis continued with anti-Catholic activities. 22. After banning the Nobel Prize, Hitler developed his own version, the German National Prize for Art and Science. Ferdinand Porsche was one of the awardees for being the man behind the world's first hybrid car, and for the Volkswagen Beetle. 21. Hitler initially considered creating a museum of an extinct race that would house his collection of Jewish artifacts. 20. When Paris fell to the control of Germany in 1940, the French cut the elevator cables in the Eiffel Tower. This was initially done to compel Hitler to climb the steps to the top. However, he decided not to drop by the tower instead of climbing more than 1,000 stairs. 19. Hitler initially planned for the outright banning of the cosmetics industry to pave the way for a total war economy. However, to avoid disappointing Eva Braun, he opted for a gradual close down. 18. Hitler often praised the efficiency of the American genocide of the Native Americans. 17. Hitler had artistic inclinations. When he moved to Vienna during the 1900s, he initially thought of pursuing a career in the arts. He even applied for the Vienna's Academy of Art, but was denied for his, quote, unfitness for painting. 16. Hitler grew up in an authoritarian family environment. His father, who was an Austrian customs official, had been noted for his strictness and hot temper. It has also been observed that Hitler embodied many of his father's personality traits. 15. While Hitler was recovering from a gas attack during World War I, the announcement of the armistice was delivered, which signaled the end of the war. This announcement was largely to blame for Hitler's anger and his belief that the Germans were betrayed by their own leaders. 14. When it became obvious that the Germans were about to lose the Battle of Stalingrad, Hitler expected the leader of his army to take his own life. However, the general remarked, quote, "I have no intention of shooting myself for this Bohemian corporal," and surrendered in 1943. 13. Hitler later developed a dislike for soccer, or football, because German victory over non-Germans could not be ensured no matter how hard they tried to manipulate or fix the setup. 12. Hitler's father had his name changed in 1877. Otherwise, it would have been difficult for people to mention his complete name, Adolf Schicklgruber. 11. It was discovered that one of Hitler's close friends and personal chauffeurs was of Jewish descent. Thus, key officials in Hitler's party recommended for his expulsion from the SS. However, he and his brothers were granted exception by Hitler, considering them as, quote, honorary Aryans. 10. Hitler also had his own way of paying debts of gratitude. When he was still a child, his family could not afford the hefty professional fees of a doctor. Luckily, a Jewish Austrian doctor never charged him and his family for medical services. When Hitler came into power, the doctor enjoyed the everlasting gratitude of the Nazi leader. He was exempted from the concentration camp, given due protection, and was named the Noble Jew. 9. Early in his political career, Hitler was summoned to the witness box by a Jewish lawyer named Hans Litten and was cross-examined for 3 hours. During the regime of the Nazis, this Jewish lawyer was arrested and tortured for half a decade, until finally he committed suicide. 8. Hitler loved Disney. He even described Snow White as one of the world's best films at that time. In fact, sketches of Bashful, Doc, and Pinocchio attributed to Hitler have been recovered. 7. Hitler's body was buried 4 times before it was finally cremated and the ashes thrown into the wind. 6. Previously, Hitler's mustache used to be of the handlebar type. In World War I, he he trimmed his mustache, changing the design to the famous toothbrush style. According to him, the handlebar type prevented his gas mask from fitting properly. A sad, sad day in the history of Charlie Chaplin and his mustache. 5. While Hitler was imprisoned, he managed to write an application for a car loan to the local Mercedes-Benz dealer. Years later, the letter was recovered within a flea market. 4. There are claims that Hitler wanted to maintain his mustache because he thought it would make his nose look smaller. 3. Jesse Owens, a successful Olympian, was surprised to receive a congratulatory token from Hitler after his success at the 1936 Olympics. President Roosevelt didn't even send Owens a telegram to congratulate him for such an achievement. 2. During World War I, Hitler was an infantryman wounded in the middle of the war. Surprisingly, he earned the mercy and sympathy of a British soldier. 1. Throughout the entire commotion, Jaeger remained very loyal to him. To avoid being prosecuted for his connection with Hitler, the photographer decided to hide his photos of the Nazi leader. Nevertheless, in 1955, he ended up selling those photos to Life magazine in exchange for a considerable profit.
If you like what you just saw, consider pressing that orange subscribe button on the upper right hand corner of your screen. And if you want more awesome lists, check out our 25 most dangerous hikes, treks, and climbs on Earth, and our 25 interesting beer facts that will leave you tipsy.